Imagine a mountain stream after heavy rain. A branch snaps, a boulder falls, and the whole current seems blocked in a single instant. If strength meant hardness, the water should lose. It has no fists, no edges, no armor. It cannot shout at the stone. It cannot overpower it in one dramatic blow. But by morning, the water has already found 3 new paths. By the next season, the rock is smooth. By the next year, the whole bank has changed. That is the strange idea at the heart of this video. Maybe the strongest thing is not what resists everything. Maybe the strongest thing is what can yield without disappearing, what can bend without breaking, and what keeps moving long after rigid things crack. This image of water is one of the most famous ideas in Taoism. In the ancient Chinese text we now call the Daodejing, water appears as a model for how to live in tune with the Tao, the way. One chapter begins with the line often translated as highest good is like water. Another says, in essence, that nothing is softer or weaker than water, yet nothing surpasses it in overcoming what is hard and strong. And that theme is not really about physical combat. It is about how life works when we stop confusing force with effectiveness. Water helps everything live, but it does not compete for attention. It goes to the low places people avoid. It takes the shape of what it meets. It stays clear when undisturbed. It can be a mist, a drop, a stream, a river, or an ocean, without needing to announce what it is. That is why water becomes such a powerful Taoist image. Water does not cling to one form. Water does not need prestige. Water does not waste energy arguing with the landscape. It responds. This is close to the idea of non-forcing action, not passivity, but action that does not fight the grain of reality, not laziness, but giving up the fantasy that life will obey us just because we push harder. In other words, water is strong because it cooperates with what is there, and then quietly transforms it. Most of us are trained to admire the opposite. Be sharp, be aggressive, win the room, push through. Never let anyone think you are soft. But Taoist wisdom asks a different question. What actually lasts? A rigid branch snaps in a storm. Reed grass survives because it bends. A person who must dominate every conversation creates enemies, exhaustion, and eventually isolation. A leader who cannot adapt becomes brittle the moment conditions change. Water shows another kind of power. It yields in the moment so it can endure across time. It does not smash every obstacle. It flows around some, wears through others, and reflects many back without taking their shape inside itself. Being like water does not mean being weak, vague, or endlessly permissive. Water has direction. A river may bend, but it still reaches the sea. The point is not never act. It is do not force what can be guided, timed, absorbed, or outlasted. Softness here is disciplined flexibility. Strength here is patient continuity. Take a normal modern moment. You open your inbox and find an email that feels insulting. Your chest tightens. You instantly want to correct, defend, and win. So you draft the perfect hard reply. Sharp, efficient, devastating. That feels strong. But often it is just impact without wisdom. A water-like response looks different. You pause. You let the first wave pass. You ask what actually needs to happen here. Is this a battle, a misunderstanding, or a problem to solve? What is the least ego-heavy position from which you can respond clearly? Maybe the best move is one calm paragraph. Maybe it is a phone call. Maybe it is waiting until tomorrow. Nothing about that is passive. It is strategic without being theatrical. It preserves energy. It protects relationships. And very often it gets better results than hardness performed for its own sake. So if you want one practical takeaway from the image of water, try this the next time you feel blocked. First, ask, where am I becoming rigid? Second, ask, what is the shape of reality here? Third, ask, what would steady, low-drama pressure look like instead of force? Sometimes the wise move is to speak. Sometimes it is to wait. Sometimes it is to go around. Sometimes it is to keep flowing in the same direction for so long that the obstacle slowly stops being an obstacle. That is why water is the strongest thing. Not because it dominates, because it adapts, endures, nourishes, and keeps moving. And in a world obsessed with hardness, that may be the deepest form of strength there is.